This video is sponsored by Loot Crate.
So this is the sort of political drama that needed to be included in The Force Awakens. One of the largest gripes I had with The Force Awakens was its lack of backstory, in particular with the political landscape. For instance, when we have Starkiller Base destroying all of Hosnian Prime, it's like, okay, we get it, like that's devastating to see, like just planets just destroyed, like just that on its own, the foundation of that is very troubling, and we know that these are the bad guys. But when you see the people like coming out the buildings and you like see their faces, you're like, okay, who are these people? Why should I care? Like, and really there's actually some deleted scenes with Corey, as she said in the book, or in the book, she's in the book as well in Bloodline, but she's the one, the lady that we see looking in the sky. We get a lot more backstory to her, and also in Force Awakens there's actually deleted scenes with her where Leia shows up in the movie a lot sooner, where she's talking to her about basically not her mole, but she's kind of like her way into the Senate because she's no longer in the Senate and all that kind of stuff. Kind of a spoiler for this book, but I mean, we all know how Leia ends up in the movies. But yeah, that's a little bit going too far off. But this book does a whole lot better of painting the picture of where the galaxy is on a political landscape than the movie does. And I feel like this novel, a lot of it could have been put in the movie itself just to make more sense. What I do like is that this is written by Claudia Gray, the author of Lost Stars. This is kind of like a continuation of her themes in Lost Stars. In Lost Stars, there was this whole dichotomy between, the Rebel Alliance and the Empire, and their two philosophies and their two outlooks on policy in the galaxy. And now we have two political parties within the New Republic. It's called the Centrists and the Populists. The Centrists are essentially the people who are eventually going to become the First Order. They're more conservative in the way that they want to rule. They want each planet to kind of like fend for themselves and to have strong military base. Populists are more about, having everyone have some say in what happens and having a more unified government. But basically it's just this two-party system and these two mentalities, same as what we had with the Empire and the Rebel Alliance in Lost Stars. So it was cool for her to continue those themes into what would be the next step, which is the New Republic. And to see basically the mentality of the Empire still come over and the mentality of the Rebel Alliance come over, and how they can, bridge that gap. And that was a big theme in Lost Stars, about how to bridge that gap. And the way to bridge that gap is by having the two parties, compromise, which is something that we see in democratic governments today. Like it's a hard thing to find bipartisanship in government. And that's basically what this whole novel is about, finding a happy medium. If you've read Aftermath, which is a novel that comes right after Return of the Jedi, we know that Mon Mothma becomes the new political leader of the New Republic, and she falls ill in this book, and now there's like a void in the leadership of this new government. So now the Populists and the Centrists are like trying to figure out how they can make a compromise, or how to fill that position that Mon Mothma had, because it was kind of like perfect, because she was kind of like the perfect leader to have, but now they don't have anyone else to really do anything, and now they're just bickering all the time. There's no one there to like set the rules down. And which brings in one of the new characters. His name is Ransom Casterfo, who is an interesting character because he is a huge contradiction. So essentially his backstory is that he used to be on a planet that was occupied by the Empire, and specifically occupied by Darth Vader, and they worked them to the bone, like to the point where I don't remember if this is correct or not in the novel, but I think his parents die because they're overworked, but I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure they are, because I think he's pretty mad about it, and he's very mad at Darth Vader for going into his world, basically just using up the resources as they could and then just leaving. But by that same token, he still admires the Empire, to the point where he has his office built with a bunch of like stormtrooper helmets, TIE pilot helmets, the Royal Guard. Like he just has all this memorabilia from the Empire. And when Leia first meets him, she's kind of like weirded out by him. She's like, what? Why are you like Empire sympathizer? But then he's not, because what he likes about the Empire is the rule of order, and he is a centrist. He's part of the other party that eventually becomes the First Order, essentially. He just believes in an empire, but he does not believe in the empire that came before. He believes in having like a totalitarian government, like with hard and fast rules, with someone who's very powerful, but he despises Darth Vader and Palpatine. So you can kind of understand that, but at the same time, it's like, why would you be so enamored with all of the things that represented the Empire when you hate the Empire, so much, especially what happens towards the end of the book, which I'll get into later. So far, I haven't spoiled anything yet, but I will be spoiling towards the second half of the review. But ultimately, yes, he is a walking contradiction, but it's still kind of compelling because Leia is sort of on the right end of the populist party, and Castrofo is kind of on the left end of the centrist party. So they kind of are similar in ways, but they just, the big thing that is between them is their political alignment. But they are very similar because, you know, Leia has come from a military war. Like she was a leader in that war, so she kind of understands the mentality of having, like, you know, a strong military and a centralized power and things like that. But she still doesn't believe in the Empire whatsoever. So she kind of takes issue with, they have these issues and conflicts between them throughout the whole novel, but they, you know, eventually find common ground between each other, even though they have such political differences. On the subject of Leia, it is kind of weird that her maternal instinct for Ben Solo, or Ben Organa, I'm not sure what they actually name him, because he is off with Luke. Like, they reveal that he's off with Luke training, but they don't really say much about, like, Leia's, you know, she says she, like, misses them, or misses him and Han throughout the story, but we never really got a conversation between them. And I guess that's okay, because that's how Luke's Jedi is set up, is that he wants them to be very secluded and just doing their own thing off in the fringes of the galaxy, whatever they're doing. But I still felt like there needs to be a little bit more there for Leia, like wanting to speak to Ben a little bit more maternal instinct there. I feel like that was a little bit lacking in the novel. I did like, there are a lot of tidbits in this story. There's like some side characters. There's this guy named Joff, who's this X-Wing pilot, very young pilot, very excited to be out on the fray and to get into adventures and things like that. And there's another pilot named Greer, who is Leia's personal pilot. But what's cool about her is that she used to race for Han Solo, because Han Solo now is like a he heads up like he's not a pod racer, but it's a different kind of race that they have, like starfighter races. And basically he operates that. And she used to be one of the best pilots, but she had to stop her career early because, spoiler alert, now I'm getting into spoilers. She has this disease called bloodburn, which is kind of cool. Something they never actually really brought up with all the space travel that these people, you know, go through in Star Wars. We as humans, or any kind of other species, or most other species, aren't really designed to be in space that much. We're meant to be on, you know, a world with the atmosphere and, you know, oxygen and things like that. But if you're in space doing all these crazy things, you know, these hyperspace, going through that as many times as you go, there should be diseases that come up with that. And I like that Claudia Gray has created this disease in the story. It's called bloodburn, which is it's kind of like an aneurysm, I guess you could say. Like, people get really bad headaches, and they eventually get such bad headaches that they, you know, end up overheating and dying. And she has this disease, Greer, which is Leia's pilot. And I like that was brought up. I think that was a cool way to expand on the world and really think about the world in a realistic manner, and what happened with people who are doing space travel when they themselves are not meant for space travel. You know, they're meant to be on planets, on the ground. And going forward, I hope this is like a continual thing, that we see more people who are affected with this as a disease, which makes sense when you have like a Star Wars, you know, franchise kind of thing happening. So that was like a little tidbit, but I like that a lot in the novel. But while we do get expansion on the universe with things like this, you definitely feel the shackles of the story group, and by extension Lucasfilm at large. We don't get that much insight about Luke and what his acolytes are doing, even though we get mention of it. Like, you know, Leia just says, oh, they're out there on the fringes of the galaxy, like learning stuff. But we don't really see anything. And I guess, yeah, sure, they're leaving that open for hopefully like comic books or novels about Luke and his new Jedi Order and what they're doing and how that's going about. But I wanted to get a little bit more, maybe at least a conversation with, you know, Ben or something like that. But that might play into the story where, you know, the new Jedi are basically like straight up monks, like seclusive monks that are just learning. They're not doing anything. They're not like fighting for the Republic or anything like that. And that's probably part of the story where they just cannot converse, because basically Ben has made himself a monk of Luke, and so they can't have any conversations with Leia. But I thought we should got like a little bit more about that. We got like little tidbits, but not enough. And I feel like a lot of the story, like when Leia is referring back to her past adventure, she's always referring back to the movie stuff, but never to like anything that might have happened in the past 26 years, you know. Oh, by the way, this takes place 26 years, 24 years after Return of the Jedi, 6 years before The Force Awakens. But yeah, like there's no reference to what she was doing in that past, you know, few years. And that's where I feel these early books kind of suffer from, because they're trying to keep things so close-knit and open to other stories that they're not really referring back to the things that could have happened, you know, in the past few decades. They just refer back to only the movies, and that's it. But one thing I do actually enjoy is Leia and Han and their relationship. I actually prefer the way they are here than they are in the previous post Return of the Jedi expanded universe, especially with Leia. Like, I feel like with Leia, I don't really prefer what her story was in the previous EU, where she, she becomes a Jedi and follows Luke's new Jedi Order and things like that. I actually prefer because there is a point in the story where someone's like, hey, why don't you become a Jedi? Like, your force potential should be just as good as Luke's. You should be just as good of a Jedi. But then she goes on to say that, her place is in the Senate. Like, that's where she needs to be. That's where she needs to keep her focus, not becoming like a Jedi and going off into like the Outer Rim or, the unknown regions to like study up on the Force. And I think that's actually a more accurate depiction of what Leia would have become. Not like, what I say is like a Luigi to Luke's Mario, in the sense that she just becomes like a Luke light, essentially. She would not have gone the path of the Jedi and would have stayed within the political landscape of the galactic, government, whatever that might be. So I actually like that about that, and I actually like her depiction in this book a lot. I think that they really show what makes her so brave, why she's such a thorough leader, why people respect her. I mean, that is up until they reveal her parentage as Darth Vader. This is getting into really, really big spoiler. The big reveal of this book, which is probably kind of obvious if you look at the title of the book, Bloodline, and also the cover of the book. It is revealed that Darth Vader is indeed Leia's father, and I thought it was kind of weird because people's reaction, I felt, was a little bit overstated. Like, I would think that the merits of Leia's career would overshadow her parent. But then again, if you think about it, if you think of like, or what if someone who was going for president turned out to be like, Adolf Hitler's long lost son or something like that, right? Like, I think most people, at least in terms of like gossip and things like that, would be like, oh, that's so terrible. But like, I guess for me, I know that doesn't dictate what that person is. Like, I would judge them on the merits of who they are as a person, not on who their parents were. I don't think that relates at all, but I know that most people would react the way they did in the book, which for me at first I was like, why is everybody like turning against her like that quick, But at the end of the book, there are some people who do come back and go like, I don't know why I did that. Like, I've known you my whole life. I know that you're a good person. You fought in the rebellion. Like, I know you're not like gonna be another Vader or something like that. Like, I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous to me that some people were so quick to deny her just because of what her parent was. And the person who betrays her is Casterfo, and he does it without even consulting her. Like, he just reveals the information because he feels so betrayed, because they are getting closer, throughout the book. They're doing this investigation with this new drug cartel that took up after the Hutts like went away. It's this guy named Rin Riven D, and they've been working on it and trying to help Ryloth get out of that situation that they had with them, and finding out that this drug cartel is actually being funded by the beginnings of the First Order. And this whole time they've been, establishing this relationship. So I guess I do understand in a way why he would feel so betrayed. They were sharing intimate stories with each other to the point where Casterfo even, admits how Darth Vader used him and his planet to get his own way. And at that point, for him sharing that, I'm sure he would feel like that's basically his biggest secret. And at that point, I would think he would want Leia to, divulge some stuff to him as well. And when he finds out that, Vader is actually her father, when he was the one who tortured him, he takes it pretty hard, and he's very kind of brash about how he reveals the information, which is really stupid. The way the information was revealed was through this little box that Bail Organa left for Leia, and he basically in his little message reveals the entire history, like the Anakin Skywalker. So now the whole galaxy knows that Anakin Skywalker turned to Darth Vader. No one knew that before. And he also reveals that it's her father. You would think with such sensitive information, you would think they would lock that away with like, I don't know, maybe a thumbprint or like a retina scan or a password maybe, like, because there's this lady named Lady Carice who is in this story who gets this information, and she's actually a main funder of the First Order, or what will become of the First Order. Like, she's funding not only Rin Riven D, who's the drug guy, but also the Amaxine warriors, who are these warrior clans, that this paramilitary group that is one day going to become, or they don't become the First Order because they're stopped in this book, but they are the remnants or the beginnings of the First Order. She gets her hands on this, no passcode, mind you, and then gives it to Casterfo because she knows she needs to break the relationship between him and Leia because they're getting so close, and she wants to kind of convert him into the First Order. So she uses that to basically break the relationship, but also to reveal all this stuff about Leia. But yeah, I think he was way too quick on the gun to do that without even consulting Leia. And it was a big betrayal, and they had their whole falling out. It's kind of like a romantic comedy. Like a romantic comedy or like a romantic movie where, you know, you have the two people, like, you know, they get along and then something breaks them apart and they get back together. That's kind of how it happens in this, except they don't have like a romance. They just have a really good friendship and a bond. And I thought, for that matter, I think that it was compelling in that way. But I just felt like, I don't know, like that part of the book felt very like, I don't know if I really like jive with this twist that much. But I get how it kind of works, you know. There was a setup for what the payoff was eventually. Also, this whole reveal with Vader, I am very sure this is what starts Ben Solo down the path of the dark side and joining up with the Knights of Ren and becoming Kylo Ren. Because Leia admits that she never says anything to him about it, and because he wants him to stay away from the idea of Darth Vader. And I'm sure that he starts digging into like who Darth Vader is and starts admiring what he was doing. And without any good guidance, you know, sometimes you do need to reveal very bad stuff to, you know, your kids or just to anybody, just so you can set them up the right way. Because since he's going to have this very personal reaction to this information, he's going to have his own, you know, curiosities, and without anybody really there to help him. I mean, Luke is there, but as we know, Luke wasn't able to stop him from going to the dark side. I'm sure this is the stepping stone right here of Kylo Ren's descent, because, you know, his parents lied to him about Darth Vader his entire life. So he's like, well, let me see what's going on with Darth Vader. I'm going to find my own information, make my own opinion about Darth Vader. So that'll be cool. I really want to see a story with Ben Solo. Probably, I think a comic book would be awesome, like a comic book series about the Knights, the new Jedi Order, and how Ben relates to all of this information that's coming out. But yeah, I think it was a solid book overall. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars, which means that I would probably reread this, maybe 3.5 stars, because I don't know if I was fully on board with it, but I did enjoy it. I think the voice of Leia was very appropriate. I liked some of the side characters, though I felt like some of their stuff was not, it was a little bit boring for me halfway through reading some of the side character stuff. The most interesting stuff, of course, was with Leia and with Casterfo. I think that relationship was the best part of this book, especially the relationship between the centrists and the populace, and just those political dichotomies like going at it with each other, and also like just the political everything about this book and how it's so impossible for these two factions to make anything work. You know, how it's hard for governments to, like these kind of governments, to make things work together. But yeah, overall, I think I can recommend this book for sure. It is really good for the information of the political landscape of everything going on in the Galactic Republic. If you really felt like you were lacking that in The Force Awakens, this is the perfect place to come for it. But yeah, that's my little ramble on it. I know that was kind of like all over the place, but that is my thoughts on Bloodline. Thank you guys for watching. As always, peace, love, and may the Force be with you. Always.
What I've seen in a lot of debates is that people, including myself, either lowball Mace or lowball Sidious to achieve their point.
Throw a grenade at him. Alright, now critical strike. Oh, I killed him. Oh no, I didn't mean to throw 2! Oh, that's such a waste. Such a waste.